Hey everybody, it's Aaron here with Robert, and welcome to Get Your Geek On's review of episodes 1 and 2 of Kenobi.
Yeah, the new Disney Plus series bringing back our favorite Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Some other returning favorites include Joel Edgerton as Owen Lars. We get a brief look at Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader. Some returning characters, although, with new actors, we get Rupert Friend as the Grand Inquisitor. We've got... I think it's and now I'm blanking on the name of the person that's playing the fifth brother. So I'll pull that up here in a second. But Moses Ingram playing the third sister. That's a new Inquisitor character that we haven't seen before. So that's pretty cool. Sung Kang, I'm sorry, was the fifth brother.
He's the one with the thing on his head, right? That black helmet. Okay.
Yeah. And then we get a brief glimpse at young Luke Skywalker, played by Grant Feely. And the big breakout star to me of these two episodes is definitely Vivian Lyra Blair playing the young Princess Leia Organa. So we are going to be spoiling things. That's probably just a spoiler there. I think the fact that she's even in the show.
But
we're going to talk about, what our feelings are in these first two episodes. So.
You forgot about Kingo from Eternals.
Yeah, Kumail Nanjiani plays a con artist, basically, who is using some tricks to make it appear like he has the Force and is a Jedi. I thought that was fun. That was a fun sequence.
So he's almost there. He's been in Star Wars and he's been in Marvel. Now he just needs to be in something Disney related. He hit the trifecta.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll get there. He's probably voiced an animated character, wasn't he, in Spider-Verse or something like that? Who knows?
Well, that's still Sony, so we can't count that
yet. Whatever.
Okay, so where do you want to start? Because I honestly will say so far, I'm hooked on the show.
Yeah, I am too. I really enjoyed the first two episodes. I have a couple things that I didn't like, and I'm sure we could talk about those. But I have to say, one of the things that we talked about it before the show ever came out. One of the things I was concerned with is, why is Obi-Wan leaving the planet, right? Why is he leaving Tatooine? And I thought that this was a great way to accomplish that, is to threaten Leia. And so having her in the story, it's one of those things where it's like, in retrospect, it feels completely obvious, but it also is not something I was anticipating. And so the first time we get a glimpse of the palace and we see them doing hair and everything, I was like Leia, and then they did the reveal of it not being Leia.
That was funny.
It took me a second, and then I was like, oh, she swapped places. Okay, that's just like her mom did. Padme did that in the prequels. I thought that was funny, but yeah, I was really excited, and I just have to say, they nailed the characterization of Leia. She's headstrong, she's independent, she's intelligent, she has this loving relationship with her parents, clearly, even though she's mischievous and all those things, and even just the way she dresses down her cousin, and really everything with Obi-Wan in the second episode when they get together, the way that she is constantly questioning him, the way that she eventually runs away from him because she doesn't trust him. She doesn't know this guy. She has no reason to trust him. And I even love her one little line where, when he's like, when he comes there to rescue her and she's like, where's the army? Like, what? My dad would send an army for me. Where is it? So I thought that they nailed the characterization, and that young actress, I thought, did a phenomenal job.
She did.
I was really enjoying, like, from that perspective, having it be, this situation where Leia gets threatened, and that's what brings Obi-Wan out of hiding, I thought was perfect.
I agree. I've said it before, and I'll say it a million times. I'm not one for prequels because we have plot protection. No matter what, we know Kenobi has to live because he has to be in episode 4. Same with Leia. She has to grow up, and she has to be the princess at the end of the day. So it's like,
yeah. Owen Lars can't die in this series because we know he gets burned alive in A New Hope. He dies, but not yet. So yeah, and he's getting threatened by the Inquisitor, and you're like, but the scene still works. Like, that's what's impressive about it, is even though you know that there really aren't stakes for him and Beru and Luke, like, this Inquisitor is not going to go back to that farm and kill them all.
Yeah.
But it still is just good acting, powerful writing. I enjoyed it.
It's a good enough acting that it's making me be okay with it. Like,
well,
I'm liking this story.
Yeah, and the thing is that we as audience members know that these characters are protected, but the characters in the situation don't know they are. So you see, Obi-Wan really struggling in that moment as he's trying to, figure out whether to intervene or not. And Owen, kind of like, I mean, when he says like, there's no love lost for Jedi, like they're scum and I kill scum on my farm. I was like, he's not lying about any of that. He does not like the Jedi.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know he didn't like them.
No, he's not a fan.
All the characters so far have been played the way they should be so far.
Yeah, I really have enjoyed it. I have to say, ultimately I did have one specific character beat that I didn't like, and I wonder if you had the same thing. Is near the end of the second episode, when our third sister Reva encounters the con artist pretending to be a Jedi. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why she didn't immediately murder him and move past him, because what this character they've set up is she is singularly focused on Kenobi. She's willing to kill anyone and everyone in her path to get to Kenobi or to get to actual Jedis. This guy here, the audacity and the arrogance to pretend to be a Jedi in her presence, like, I don't like, the story needed her to get information from him.
Right.
And that's the only reason she didn't immediately kill him.
So they can, I guess my question is, I don't remember Jedi's reading minds. They can read minds though? Or Sith Lords can read minds? There
are examples in other versions of canon in Star Wars where Force users can. It's not really mind reading in the traditional sense that we think of it, but they can kind of force you to think about things and then see what it is that you're thinking about. It's it's like, again, it's not like I can know exactly what you're going to say, but it's I can pull thoughts from your brain, kind of thing.
And we don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know much about her yet, from what I understand. I mean, and we have a line from, I believe, Obi-Wan, who says some of these Inquisitors used to be Jedi. Mm-hmm. So we don't know if she was a former Jedi, because she makes comments that's like, I have like almost a personal connection with him for some reason. So
I think we're definitely going to find out that there's a bitterness towards Jedi and Obi-Wan in particular.
Right.
And I honestly, I don't know what that, I mean, I've seen, all of the Star Wars stuff, and the Jedi did not always do the right things. And there were plenty of planets that they visited that, were not fans of the Jedi either before they came or after they left. And so you could say, like, this is a person who had some sort of negative impact. Maybe her parents were part of the the separatists and got killed by Obi-Wan. I mean, we don't really know what her personal motivation is, but it does seem like she has a personal motivation.
Yeah. And see, I guess that's where it's like, I didn't like that scene too much either, because one, we've already saw in the first 5 minutes how ruthless she is. She was about to just murder the other Jedi when the Grand Inquisitor was like, no, we're not going to kill him yet. And she was like, why not? Like, let's just kill him. She already showed within I think halfway through the first episode that she was willing to kill Owen just to get information. And it was like, I'm going to kill your whole family because I don't know if you know anything, but why not?
But somebody here does.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start murdering innocents until that person tells me what I need to know.
Exactly. Even if it means killing the whole town. I think she would have killed the whole town just to be like,
absolutely.
No one knew anything, I guess. But now we know.
That one lady that was like, you don't have any authority here. And she's like, you don't have a hand here.
Yeah, like, she chopped her hand right off. So
which,
it's like,
that's a nice Star Wars trope. Getting really a limb chopped off.
And it's like when you see him, I'm already in my mind. This is how the character is. It should have been like, oh, you want to pretend to be a Jedi? Then you can die like one, and just murk him right there.
Yep.
Like maybe get the information, then murk him. It's like, oh, as you walk away, this is what I do with Jedis, and then just cut your head off.
Absolutely. I was extremely, put off by that moment, just because it was like, this is not in line with the character they set up. Other than that, there was one other complaint that I had, which is more of a nerdy Star Wars type of complaint, which like is just that Halo, got it. Which is just that it's not, and they could still explain this, but it's not common knowledge that Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader. And so in that moment when she's kind of taunting Obi-Wan and she brings up, I'm going to bring you to my master, Lord Vader. And then she senses that causes the distress to Obi-Wan, and she's like, oh, you didn't know. And then she says, Anakin Skywalker lives. And I was like, why does she know that Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker? And they could explain it. They could go back and they could give some, maybe she was one of the younglings, and maybe she was like, look, I'll join your team. I'll hang out with you. I don't know. And that's part of the other thing too, is that I didn't see a story connective reason for starting this with kind of revisiting Order 66, other than we're framing Obi-Wan's mindset as in light of that, and him feeling the failure and feeling all of those things. Like, other than that, I'm like, was there a character that we were supposed to like be following, like is going to come back, that they were in that flashback? And that's the thing, is I didn't see that. And so I don't know, that scene, as cool as it was, did feel a little bit out of place for me.
You're talking about the first part, right? Where we see that.
Yeah. The assault on the temple.
Yeah. And what I'm wondering is if Reva, if she is one of those kids in that room.
That's what I was wondering too. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was wondering too. And they certainly didn't make it clear, which is why the scene, if that's not the case, will feel really out of place. Again, I think it's effective for framing Obi-Wan's mindset, is, everything that has happened in these 10 years, traces back to that moment. But I think if that's what you were going to do, it would have been more effective to have it be, something he witnessed then have it be playing in his memories, like when he's having those nightmares, have some flashes of like that. And so the fact that we got a brand new scene from a completely new perspective, because I was like, oh, are we going to see Anakin show up? Like, because he was there at the assault on the temple, like maybe this is Hayden Christensen, like this is part of his comeback, because we're going to see him. And then he wasn't in that scene. And so it just kind of was like, I don't know why this scene is here. It's not that I don't like it.
It was a good scene, though.
I don't know why the scene's there.
And I agree. I think so. I want to touch on one thing I did like before I say one thing I didn't like, and that's that we are seeing, let's face it, a PTSD Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, this guy is textbook PTSD. Like, I mean, the nightmares, like you said, we see that where he's remembering what's happening to Anakin. He remembers, being a brother with him and going through the motions of life with him and growing up essentially with him. And to just be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. Go. As he tells the other Jedi, go bury it in the desert and move on with your life. Like, and
you can see he did. When I saw that later, when I was like, I saw him going out in the desert, and I'm like, oh, he's got to dig up his lightsabers, because he did exactly what he told the other guy to do.
I want to ask you, because I couldn't really tell in the shot, was there two sabers in there? Because it looked like there was a second one.
Yeah, it's his and Anakin's. Because after his duel, and then the reason that one's there, honestly, is because he gives Luke Anakin's lightsaber in A New Hope in the first Star Wars movie. He says this was your father's, lightsaber. And so then when they were making episode 3 and they had their big old duel, they, like George Lucas, didn't end it initially with him walking away with Anakin's lightsaber, and somebody was like, "Hey George, he has to do that." So they had to like shoot up like a pickup scene of Obi-Wan like bending down and picking up the, So yes, so he has Anakin's lightsaber so that he can give it to Luke.
To Luke later on.
Hope. Yeah, okay, we're 9 years away from that moment.
That makes sense now, because I was like, "Is there 2 lightsabers in there?" And I don't remember the scene in episode 3, so I was like, "Why does he have 2?"
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that we're getting a beaten down Obi-Wan, just
absolutely
worries about Luke, and even at that, he's kind of crappy about it because Owen doesn't want him. Owen hates him. It's like, you don't even need to be here. So it's like, he has no place in the universe right now. There's no Jedi's.
Yeah.
The Owen family, I don't know what their last name is. It also Skywalker? Lars. Okay.
Lars. Yeah.
Lars, they don't want him around. So it's like, what do you do besides be a hermit? And I like that we're setting that hermit mentality up.
Absolutely. And it was, it was in the trailer, but I do love, he's just like, listen, like, stay away from him. You got involved in Anakin's life, and not only did he die because they think he's dead at this point, right? But also, like, everything went to fucking shit. And pardon you're gonna have to bleep that out.
I mean, if
I apologize. But I mean, just like everything got ruined because Jedi showed up. Right. So next time, just hands off, stay away from me, stay away from our family, leave us alone. Yeah, well, and it's one of those things where that's kind of his same mindset in A New Hope. When Luke brings up, old Ben Kenobi, and he's like, stay away from that, that crazy old hermit, stay away from him. Don't.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like leading up to that.
It's absolutely, it's the right. It's they're getting all the characterizations right of our legacy characters. Bail Organa returning, Leia's adoptive father. I really like the scene that he initially has where he's talking with the other, like his family member, and he's like bringing up like all these political, slavery and things, in the Outer Rim and all that stuff, and everybody's like, we're here to party, bro. Like, be quiet.
Yeah, like we're not gonna talk about that.
But that again tracks with his character of someone who is kind of an ideologue. Like he is someone that truly cares about these other issues and wants to bring them up and wants to have a positive impact on the world, wants Leia to be brought up in a position where she's going to have a positive impact on the world, all these things. And so, I thought they just did a really good job with all the characterizations. I'm liking the story so far. Mm-hmm. I like the dynamic that we've seen, in episode 2 with like Obi-Wan and Leia. Like, that's working really well for me. We're going to see, I don't think she's going to be with him the whole time. Like, I feel like we got maybe half an episode more of her with him, and then he's going to drop her off at Alderaan, and whatever. We'll see. So, I mean, who knows?
I mean, I'm glad you bring up episode 2, because that's where my complaint is. Okay. And again, maybe it's a story movement. It's to move the story, and I get why they did it. But and maybe you can fill it in for me. We have the Grand Inquisitor is supposed to be the stronger user of the Force, right? Of all of them, from what I understand.
It's not necessarily that. I mean, it's unclear what their Force levels are. He's the boss of the Inquisitors. Okay. So like Darth Vader is head of the Inquisitors. Like he's over them, and then this is his assistant manager. Like you are in charge of the rest of the Inquisitors. I don't know if it's clear that he is the most powerful. I will say that he is certainly in the other stuff we've seen him in, he's very powerful. The fifth brother is kind of a blunt instrument. He's a hammer. He's not the smartest guy around, but he'll just hit you and hit you and hit you until you're beaten into submission. That's kind of what we know. The 2 female ones in this show are not ones that we've seen before. So both the other one that shows up in the second episode is not one we've seen before, and then Reva, the third sister, is not one we've seen before. So in terms of power levels, I don't know exactly.
Okay, so I mean, because here's my question. I mean, let's even if we go that he has the same base powers as her, as the third sister. Mm-hmm. They've already shown they can sense feelings and emotions and motives. So it's like, how did he not see it coming that a lightsaber was going to come to his chest?
Well, I mean, it's not, this is the thing, is that, Force sensitivity is not necessarily that you can see the future. it is, as you said, kind of reading people and their emotions, and being able to have very fast reflexes, and one of the things is, I'm sure he was sensing her rage, her anger, her all of those things, and feeling like it was directed at both him and Obi-Wan, because I mean he's antagonizing her for 2 episodes.
Yeah, he was a
like,
jerk.
So but at the same time, I'm sure he's like, listen, I'm your boss. You've been not listening to me this whole time. Like, just back off. Right. And so, yeah, I wasn't initially. I was like caught off guard by it as well. And honestly, this is a canon question, because either he's not dead, or if he is, they've either broken canon or replaced the Grand Inquisitor with another Grand Inquisitor that looks very similar to him 6 years later. Because the cartoon of Star Wars Rebels, that's about 6 years later, because it's about 3 years before A New Hope, and this is 9 years before A New Hope. So about 6 years later in the timeline, he's like the main villain of the entire first season of that show.
So he's probably not dead.
I don't think he's dead.
Okay.
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Star Wars does sometimes play fast and loose with their canon. And they kind of have a hierarchy almost, as like movies are the ultimate canon. Right below that is some live action series. Right below that is animated series. We got books and comics and video games thrown in. And it's like, oh, you tell the story one way in the comic, but then we tell it a different way in the cartoon. Yeah. Well, the cartoon becomes canon. Well, okay, now if we're telling different things in cartoon versus live action, guess what? The live action is going to become canon, which gets confusing for people that watch and love all of it. But Star Wars is not necessarily as married to their canon as something like Marvel is. So, I
mean, I guess you can say wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
I mean, I guess you could say the entire first season of Rebels, just that villain is, even though we call him the Grand Inquisitor and he looks exactly like this Grand Inquisitor,
his twin brother.
Clearly, yeah.
I'm curious then if he'll come back, because it threw me off as like, why didn't he see that coming? Like, that was my more thing. Like, you've been a complete jerk to her. Like, let's face it, you probably have also been a jerk before this all started to her. And now you really think she's not going to stab you in a quiet room where no one else is here except Obi-Wan? And you're like, no, I could have. Well, yeah, I saw this coming. Oh, well. And then fall over dead.
Yeah, it was, I think that's what they were going for, is they wanted the shock value. They wanted you to feel surprised that it happened.
Yeah, and it did. It did. It was,
but yeah, like it definitely caught me off guard for a second, mostly because I was like, wait, the Grand Inquisitor needs to be alive. Like, I was very confused by that.
Now, as a Star Wars fan, though, we got to see a small glimpse of unmasked Vader, Hayden Christensen. What did you think of that, or do you think that was just played up a little too much?
No, I'm okay with it. I mean, we know that Vader. We've seen him in the back of the tank, like in episode 5, we see a shot of like the back of his head. That at that point we didn't actually see what he actually looked like. We saw, we see him at the very end of Return of the Jedi. We see, when Luke takes his mask off and stuff, and he's very, pale and deformed. He's got scars and all that stuff. So no, I mean, I thought that was, interesting. I thought it worked for me. I'm interested to see how they bring the character of Vader back. They're gonna have to have another fight, and I don't know how it's gonna work out. Like, obviously they're both gonna survive at the end of it. But I don't know. It feels weird that they're going to have another confrontation still, but especially after these 2 episodes, I'm going to give the show the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what, they're going to figure out a way to do it. Because I thought going into the show, I was like, how are they going to justify getting Obi-Wan off planet? And then they did it, and it works really good. So I'm just, at this point, I'm not going to ask any more questions. I'm going to say, give me the show, I'll watch it, and then I'll judge it after.
Exactly. So, I mean, we'll see. Like I said, it wrapped me in the first 2 episodes already. So I'm personally excited for it. I'm ready to see more of it. I'm not a fan of prequels, so the fact that it got me in there, and I will say this, that what got me in there, and I guess I never thought about it, is I'm adopted. So having a character talk about, what they're facing as adoption, so like I'm not a family member. And it's kind of like the cousin gets in her head a little bit. And it's like, yeah, those are thoughts I think you have as an adopted child at some point, whether you vocalize them or not. It kind of runs through your head like, maybe I'm not one, but then your family loves you and you get there. So I like that I can connect in that sense to the character.
Yeah, and again, talking about just the characterization of Leia, like I love that in the moment you can tell it does bug her, but she just recovers really quickly, cuts him down to size, does this whole thing. But then later when she's having that moment with her father, you can tell that it is eating away at her. Like it's still, even though she put up the armor and she immediately, was able to pretend, at least in front of her cousin, that it didn't bother her and that actually let me cut you down to size. I appreciate that there is still that, she's still, number one, a 10-year-old who's gonna feel insecure and where do I fit in the world, and the fact that she has this more adventurous spirit than maybe the Organa family probably isn't helping her to feel like she fits in or like she really is an Organa, because she's always wanting to run off. And I just thought overall, like, the series was really good. The show was really good, the first 2 episodes. I'm looking forward to more. It wasn't perfect. I did have a couple of things that I wasn't a fan of, but for the most part, I thought it was interesting. And again, it's doing a lot of honor to these characters, which ultimately, I always am concerned when we're bringing back legacy characters and telling stories within timelines that we have already explored, because it's one of those, it's like, okay, why are we telling this story? What is interesting about this story? And so far I'm hooked on it. It is a little bit odd when you think about, episode 4 again, kicks off with Leia and we get this message that she comes to Luke, and when she, is saying that message to Obi-Wan Kenobi, you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now, you don't sense that there's any personal connection between the two of them. And so now introducing that, hey, 9 years ago, you saved me from a kidnapping. It does that, throw that off a little bit and make it feel a little bit weird, maybe, but you know what? These are not the droids you're looking for. Don't worry about it.
We don't talk about it.
This is Star Wars. And hopefully we're just going to get a good series. We got 4 more episodes coming on Wednesdays now. The first 2 dropped on Friday. I actually dropped a little bit early on Thursday night, thanks to Star Wars Celebration. So that was awesome.
It was.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
We're getting more Kenobi as we go forward. I'm very excited for the rest of the series.
Same. So on that note, definitely follow us at Official GYGO on YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff, TikTok, everything else, because we will be dropping these every week when they come out, along with our Talking Geek podcast, which is our news one, High Five, where Robert and Matthew talk about different top 5 things, as well as Gaming Geek, where I talk about random gaming stuff that are going on. And that's it, guys. On that note, Aaron, Robert, stay geeky, guys.
Bye.